has brought us through. And so when we go to our beds at night, we don't hold God any obligation to wake up. And the fact that our eyes pop open, you are able to get up from your bed, go to the washroom, and return, it is a blessing, don't it? Yes, and so we are indeed grateful. Let me take this opportunity to thank you for inviting me on behalf of the Victim Services Division. I once served with them as a volunteer, and so it would appear as if it still continues, because Mr. Rodney, a very good friend of mine, would have asked me to share with you this afternoon on this very, very touchy topic on domestic violence. And so this afternoon, we are going to talk together. And so I see we have little people and we have big people. Small people in the house say hallelujah. All the children say hallelujah. 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 And I see some brilliant ones this afternoon sharing in devotion, and that's a good start. Put your hands together for all our children. This is a good place for them to start, when they can start to lead in the right way in the house of the Lord. That is the very place I started as a little girl going up in church. And I was so nervous every Sunday morning when my mother would say to me, "You are going to read." And I would sweat and I would tremble. But after doing it over and over and over, didn't know that God was preparing me to go out and speak to lots of people all over Jamaica and all over the world. So you little ones who are coming to Sabbath school and you're being put at the front to lead and to share, it is a practice. It is something that God is propelling you to go forward and to do that which He wants to do. We are having a little itch with technology, but that's how it is sometimes. And so we're going to do this song, "Trust in the Lord with All My Heart," because that is one of my favorite chorus, until the system is ready for us. Trust in the Lord with all of my heart, and lean not to thine own understanding, but in all thy ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct thy path. Let's do that one more time as we change our position and stand. Trust in the Lord with all of thine heart, and lean not to thine own understanding, but in all thy ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct thy. Just walk over to somebody and tell them today, trust in the Lord. Trust in the Lord with all of your heart, with all of thine heart, and lean not to thine own understanding, but in all thy ways, acknowledge Him, and He shall direct thy path. With all of thine heart, and lean not to thine own understanding, but in all thy ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct thy path. Somebody clap your hands for Jesus. Clap your hands for Him. If there is no other time we need to trust Him, we need to trust Him now. And not with a little part of our heart, not with half, not with 3/4, but with our everything. Somebody say everything. Somebody say everything. And if you don't have a TV and you have a radio, or if you're on the street, or if you even don't come out of your house, somebody must come over and say to you, you hear what is happening in Kingston, in St. Catherine, in London, all over the world, where so many persons are being affected by domestic violence. So many persons are affected by abuse. And you know what? It is so far away from us, but yet still it is so near. And I always say to persons, hurt people hurt people. And we don't turn up our nose at persons who you know are abusers. Because guess what happened? Those persons, based on my exposure working with clients, they have been abused. And so you have something called cycle. And the cycle continues. Because if you hurt, it is likely that you are going to do what? You're going to hurt somebody. And so the very inclination of you hitting or slapping somebody, once you do something to them, they're going to want to do what? Hit or slap somebody else. Because it's a cycle, it continues. And so today we're going to talk about domestic violence. And my first slide says, how do you admit to yourself that you are being abused or you are not? And so we're going to look at what it is. It says, what is domestic violence? It's a pattern of behavior in any relationship that is used to gain or maintain power and control over an intimate partner. So once the notion is there to gain power and control, it starts out like that. One party wants to be in full control. In full control, meaning full autonomy. They want to have the say. And so several reasons contribute to this. Well, domestic violence doesn't only affect the partners, it affects other persons in the relationship. So the children are affected, family members are affected, and the cycle continues and it goes on. If you look closely at the slide, you will see domestic violence can affect anyone. Somebody say anyone. Somebody say anyone. So if you're tall, or you're short, or you're fat, or you're slim, or you're black, or you're brown, or you're white, whatever color, creed, race, background, educational background, your qualification, domestic violence can affect you. Because once you have emotion and you are hurt, it is likely that you can hurt somebody else. Is everybody getting that? Yes. And so it says 1 in every 4 women or 1 in 7 men will experience domestic violence. It means that it is widespread. But guess what? A lot of times persons are being abused and they don't speak. Because it's a very touchy and emotional issue. And we are cultured in, we don't want nobody to know our business. And so in doing that and in saying that, we keep things to ourselves most of the time. And so domestic violence affects families, affects the community, and it goes on and on and on without much help. And we're going to look at what are some of the abuse that happen as a result of domestic violence. Now, abuse is physical, sexual, emotional, economic, or psychological actions or threat of actions that influence another person. So it can be physical. And what we talk about physical, what do you think physical speaks to? Hitting. And that is just a little baby that born that they know about hitting. Because as you hit them, they want to do what? Reflex. It says we're born in sin and shaped in iniquity, right? And so the quickest way of getting back is to lift the hand. I watched a video where a little baby, I think it was about 2 years old, grandma spoke to him about going on the table to take up something, and she just pat him on the butt. Just a little slap. And I watched that little video circulating on WhatsApp where the little boy went on the table in the kitchen, take up a knife out of the area that they put the knife. They have some little board thing, I don't know what I call that, where they would stick the different knives. And he put the chair there and he climbed up on top of it. Little 2-year-old, I'm talking, climb up and he took out the knife. And grandma there with her stick trying to move on to something else. And there he was going right behind grandma with lots of anger. At how old? At 2 years old. So you see how anger can take over our children. And if that child doesn't get help early, then you can imagine what monster that child will become and eventually become going around hurting others. So physical abuse is hitting or inflicting harm. Sexual abuse, everybody know what sexual abuse, it happens within the relationship, and this takes different form, and I'll say more about that. Emotional abuse happens without persons even realizing that it's happening. It is the power of the tongue. And James speaks about the tongue. Everybody say the tongue. We say things and we don't realize that it's hurting other people. And I always say, words are powerful, watch them. Say that with me. Words are powerful, watch them. So watch your words. Because your words that you speak can affect somebody else. It can harm. It can cause abuse. And that can lead to emotional abuse. So a lot of times you're finding yourself thinking about something that somebody said to you. That's emotional abuse. Because they said it and it really hurt. It really cuts to the core. And you find yourself thinking about it. And sometimes you start believing what the person says. All right? And so there are other abuse. But let's look at what this slide says. I don't know if you are seeing it clearly. It says, sometimes I wish he would punch me so I'd have something to show people. What type of abuse is happening there? Sometimes I wish he would punch me so I'd have something to show people. Domestic abuse isn't always about bruises. So sometimes you are not seeing any bruises. Why is it so? Because the abuse is emotional. The abuse is what? Everybody say emotional. And we are emotional beings. We have feelings. And so what you say to somebody, the person can absorb it. It affects how they feel, and it affects their action, and their actions contribute to their behavior. And this also allows things to get out of the whack. And so an abuser don't walk with a sign over their faces or on their backs or around their neck to say, I am an abuser. Do you see that? You see anybody walking around with a big sign saying, I am an abuser? No, it's not there. But it's their actions. It's what you do. And we can turn the searchlight on ourselves. Am I an abuser in what I say and what I do? And how I relate to my children and to my spouse? Think about it. So physical abuse, slapping, choking, pushing, using a weapon, hitting, biting, grabbing, beating, and throwing down. Those are physical. And sometimes some of these happen during sexual relationships when the spouse is being forced to have sex. And these actions are inflicted. And sometimes it is masked because the couple will say, you know, I get carried away in the act. I don't really mean anything. But it's the onset of abuse that is taking place right there. Coercion and threat. If you don't do this, I will not pay the bill. I will not give you any money. So you're threatened because one party has more power in assets and wealth over the other. Intimidation and manipulation. So you can't really make decisions on your own. The verbal attacks, which speaks to the emotional things that comes out of your mouth, telling you that you're no good and you're the worst person and they don't know why you're in their lives and all those things, right? So the abuse continues and it continues, denying and blaming each other also. And the children affected and get involved because the children can be used as a weapon and the children can be used as a manipulative tool. So the children will say, I'm not going to allow this child to stay with you, or the child get involved in some way. Child seeing what is happening and is affected by the whole abuse situation. So the children are also very, very integral in this part of the act. Abusers, let's talk a little bit about the abusers. Abusers may feel this need to control their partner because of low self-esteem. Everybody say low self-esteem. Yes. And that is what the emotional abuse leads to, the low self-esteem. Because based on what you say, it feeds you. And you keep hearing this, you are no good. You are not like Miss Jane, you are not like Mr. Right. And so you keep hearing these things, and it's keep coming into your spirit, and you start believing it, and you just lose out on feeling important, feeling who you are, and feeling as if you are somebody. There is extreme jealousy. Somebody say jealousy. So they search phones. They will, anybody call, you have to say if they're going anywhere, you have to say, and they will stalk you, follow you, and all these things. Extreme. The extreme jealousy is also a little profile of the abuser. difficulties in regulating anger and other strong emotions. When they get angry, it's like they can't keep control of themselves. They lose control easily. They even grab a bottle, break it, hit the wall hard, do some stuff, all because the anger is boiling up on the inside. And sometimes when they don't even realize that what is it that they are doing it to you and not the thing. Because the anger becomes so overpowering and the emotion becomes so strong. And even in sexual involvement, sexual intimacy, anger gets in there because they are not being satisfied. They feel as if they are not being satisfied. And so the strong emotions will come over and allow feeling of inferiority on the partner. And this background support not there because you don't want to tell anybody that this happened last night during sex. You don't want to share it. And so all of that contributes to the low self-esteem, and it continues on and on and on. This jealousy also comes as a result of your partner feeling that you are better than or is less than in terms of educational background or assets that you might have or recognition that persons might see you or how you relate to others. So they are not jealous only because of what you have, but they are jealous because of your personality and your relationship. So you get along well with certain persons and they have a problem with that. The abusers have a problem with that because they don't understand. So they feel less of themselves, and so they start to saying, you and them must into something. Something must be going on. Why you are always talking to these persons. They're always thinking way out of the box, something different from what is happening. This one says, you made me do it. You asked for it. You had it coming. You got what you deserve. You. So what happened? The abuser keep doing what? Pointing fingers. They find somebody to blame. They are not the problem. Nothing is wrong with me. You are the problem. You are the one who is sick. You are the one who can't do this. You are the one who keeps making the mistakes. You are the one. You. So they find everything in the relationship and they will keep pointing fingers to you. A batterer will justify, deny, distort, lie, and blame you for his violence. So it's not you, it's him. But guess what? He's not accepting, or she's not accepting. And so, even though based on the statistics that we are exposed to in our everyday life, we realize that a lot of women are affected by domestic violence. But can I say men are exposed to domestic violence and affected by it too? But the dominance comes from the female, and sometimes you will keep hearing him, because I tend to use the him more than the female pronoun. But guess what? It happens to just about anybody. Once you're human and you're not dealing with the issues, you can be an abuser if you don't get help. And so the victim has a voice. How do you know that the person is being abused? It begins with verbal abuse. That's what this. I interviewed a victim, and it begins with verbal abuse. Sometimes there's a little sign of physical. They don't want anybody to know, so they don't really start out like that. They start out by saying things to you because they're in trouble, they're having issues, and they get angry, so words come out. And then you're not complying, and they're getting more miserable, and then this physical takes little more effect. But it's gradual. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes stages and processes. Abuse during sexual intercourse. A pinch, a bite, and even eating. And they will justify the action and say, it's because I'm enjoying it while I'm doing that. Or they will say, I never mean to do it. Different little things will come. But those are some signs, and it is done in a mask. The abuse is done in a mask because they are doing it and not even realizing that they are really inflicting harm. And so the victim is saying, this is a way how it starts, and you have to watch out. The victim also mentioned that it's, especially if you're a Christian or in the church, it's hard to talk about it. So you wear the mask as the victim too. So even though you're hurting, even though you're abused, you don't want anybody to know because you don't want anybody to talk about you, or you don't want anybody to be saying, sister over there, so brother over there, so. So you wear the mask and keep on feeling hurt and being abused, and the cycle continues until a big showdown and there's a crash and somebody's seriously hurt or even death. And then everybody say, me didn't wonder, me did think, me did see, and these are some of the things happen. Now, some of the mask of the victim will keep silent and refuse to talk about the abuser. Fear is a big factor. Everybody say fear. So you're afraid of him or you become afraid of her. And so you don't really want, because they keep saying it is your fault, you don't want to say anything, and then the person's going to say, "Are your fault? Why it happen?" So you don't, what do you do? What the person does is to remain silent. The victim is often depressed or sad, but blames it on other things. So they are not making mention of what is causing them to feel depressed or sad. They find everything else. It is work. And they talk about other family members. They try to push it to other things, to mask it or to hide it, because they don't really want anybody to know about it. So they put it under the carpet, hoping that one day change will come. How? They don't know, but they're just keeping it there. A lot of times the victim wants to be alone because there's a lot happening in the emotion. You're crushed, you're sad, you're angry, you're blaming yourself, you want a way out, but you don't know how to. So guess what? You want to be alone. And sometimes the victim is confused because when the violence comes upon them, they want to be in somewhere else where they feel safe. But at one point, they want to be alone. So there's confusion there in the mind. And remember, you're emotionally oppressed. So a lot of things happening. They try to be engaged in many activities. So they get themselves involved to occupy their thoughts and their minds so that the abuse don't overpower them. But as they go back home where they face the situation, everything comes right back. Another mask of the victim is that they are dedicated to task. They will take on everything and they will do it because they don't want anybody to know that something is affecting them. And they will do it well because they're giving it their best. They're pushing aside and suppressing the emotion just to get the task done. And you think everything is good with that person. And that is why sometimes when everything comes out and there is death, you say, but really that person was going through all of that? And that person was working so well and doing all of that so well? Because guess what happened? The person pushed the abuse under the table, on the mask, under the carpet, and put the task. Just put everything in work. And that is also another mask of the victim. The victim feels trapped in their own home. So they feel as if there are barriers, walls, rails, everything around them. And so that is one of the reasons why they don't talk. They keep it to themselves. And so the cycle will continue. But what should you do? What should the victim do? It's not easy, but it is the right thing. And that is to do what? But it is easy to speak out? No. Speaking out takes time, and you have to find somebody who you trust. But the sooner you do it, it's better. Because guess what happens? The longer you stay in the situation, the worse it gets. And that is where the greatest fear comes in. Because the victim is fearful that if he or she speaks out, then somebody will be in danger or harm. Worse if they are threatened and say, if you ever say nothing to nobody, you feel as if you say something, then that is when they are going to. And a lot of abusers are cowards, so they will pretend as if they are strong and they are able to. But once somebody find out, that is not so easy. So domestic violence in Jamaica, this data is from 2010 to 2016, where approximately 450 deaths from domestic disputes in 6 years. And if you are watching the news and you're listening, you'll realize that from 2016 to 2019, it is a whole lot. I didn't get that data, but it is a whole lot. And it is 290 males and 166 females. So what is happening to our men? They are not coping. So guess what happened? They will do whatever they are doing, and then what else? They will do what? Take out themselves. And so the suicide rate gets really high. 25 women in 2016, 15 women in 2015, 38 men in 2016, and 46 men in 2015. So you notice what is happening, and that was then. Can you imagine our data for now when the rate has been so high based on what we are hearing on the news? This article that I read it on March 17, 2019 says 89% of suicide victims are men. Amid revelations that almost 9 in every 10 suicide victims in Jamaica are male. Why is this so? What do you think is happening? Our male are not talking. They are not talking. They're hurting, they're abusing, or they're being abused, and they don't want to talk. One man say, "You're mad. Me think me could have got report to my wife or my girlfriend abuse me. Me don't want nobody look think say me a girl or, look down on me." So they will keep everything, and I'm telling you, the emotional abuse in the home is so critical. Sometimes women are abusing men emotionally, and it is even worse than if they were getting physically. Because over time, it weakens the man, and the man loses out on his masculinity. Donovan Thomas, founder of Choose Life International, believes that a failure to engage in talk therapy has led to more than 200 men taking their lives in less than 5 years. So the man, them no want to talk. They don't want nobody know nothing about them. So guess what happened? They keep it, they suppress it, and then they act. And sometimes what is sad, they don't only take themselves out of the picture alone. They will do what? They will take their families and they will say, it's because, before they do it, they'll say, because my love on me, I can't take on with me. I interviewed an abuser once, and he was saying, the reason why he's going to kill his family members and kill himself is because he was suffering and he can't take it anymore, and he wants them to go with him. And I was saying, but that's not going to help. You taking yourself out and taking your family members with you is also wrong. But that is the feeling that they get. And that is why there's a lot of suicide that is as a result of domestic violence. How can others offer help? And it is right in the church before your eyes, under your nose. Some you see, some you don't see. Some you're afraid to speak about, and some you don't want to touch because you're not sure how to handle or how to deal with the situation. And especially if the persons in the church are in leadership position, then again you say, who am I? I am not the person to go and talk to this person because they're leaders and they should know better. But they're hurting, and that's why they hurt others. Because remember, hurt people. And anybody can be affected by domestic violence and abuse. Just a simple quarrel. And the devil comes in our lives to kill, to steal, and to destroy. And his aim is to destroy families. So any area he can find to destroy families through, he's going to use that. So if he knows that you have an anger problem, he's going to use your anger to cause problems in the relationship, in the family unit, and that's where it starts. And before you know it, you lose control, you lose a temper, and things get out of whack. Now, how can others help? Now you can listen without judgment. The last thing a victim or the abuser wants to hear you say, you make this happen. They don't want to hear that. Because remember, the victim is already feeling as if they're the ones who contribute to it. And the abuser, even though they know that they have an issue, fail to address or to accept that they have an issue. You coming out and saying, you will only allow them to become even more angry, get irate, and you can also become endangered. So just listen without judgment. Talk with the person, especially the victim. The victim will want somebody to talk to. Remind them of their strength. Find something good to say to the victim, because the abuser allows the victim to feel as if they are nobody, belittling or diminishing the self-esteem, allowing it to be low. So what you can do is to tell the person about the good things and the things that they do well, and they can use it to remind them of, you can use it to remind them of their strength. Help them to learn more about domestic violence. Let them know that they are not alone. There are so many other persons who have been through, have gotten help, different places where you can get it. And let them know that you are genuinely concerned, but you are not just want to hear their story or hear their sus, or them to go and tell somebody else. And you know, Sam, I talked to this person, and this is what, no. Be genuinely concerned. And if you know you're not at the place to help, you can point them to somewhere. And that is why I'm here this afternoon, to help you to identify some places. And one thing I know about Jamaicans, we fail to tell others what we are going through. How are you? Me, all right. You sure? Yeah, me good. So we use those lines to cover up the real thing that is happening. But it's important that you share, you say what is happening. Some persons are at the crisis stage where you will need to help them to develop a safety plan. Because the moment you find out and the persons know that probably they are talking to somebody, that is when they are in more danger. So you will have to help the person to find a safety plan and exit out. One person told me that she migrated. She went to work, packed her little handbag, and she went to work, and she leave work, and she went to the airport, and she took the plane, and that was it. She left the house with the furniture and everything, because anyhow her spouse knows that she had any inclination or plan of leaving him, then she might not reach work. So she said she was willing to walk away, leave house, car, settee, fridge, and you name it, house of everything, just to save her life and her child. So she sent the child to school, and she gone to work, and she do everything with the help that she get because somebody reached out to her, and she did all of what she did discreetly, and then she leave. You have to work on a safety and a secret plan. There are signs that the abuser is not changing, so you have to look out for those signs, because they will say after 1 or 2 times, they will say, me sorry, I'm going to change, I'm not do it again. But there are signs that they always say that, lots of self-pity, and they keep doing it over and over and over because they have little or no control over themselves because they need power. So they minimize the abuse or deny how serious it really was. So when you're telling them what happened last night, they say really like they weren't there. They're not a part of it. It's as if it's a new story you're bringing up. Where you get that from? And they're the ones who inflict the wound. They're the ones who harm you. And when you're talking about it, it's as if it's a new story that you just make up. The abuser is not changing. Continues to blame others for his or her behavior. And some persons get a fix. They feel good after they hurt somebody and they go and drink. They feel nice. They say yes. But not realizing that they're hurting themselves more when they become divulge in alcohol and also hurting the others and the victim in the process. They claim that you are the one who is abusive, so they turn it around on you. Remember I said that they keep pointing on you, and you. And they even pressure you and tell you that you must go and get counseling because you are sick. Because they are in denial. They are in denial. I have cases where the client say, nothing is wrong with me. She is the one that needs the counseling. She's the one who is sick. She's the one who is psychotic. So these are some of the terms that the person failed to accept that they have a problem. They turn it around and they're saying, I don't need any help. Until things got to rock bottom. And when one of the partners step out and go, that is when they are saying, you know, I want him back, I did me, and all those things. And sometimes it is way too late when it reaches that stage. They will also tell you that you owe him another chance, owe him or her. So, starting to act on your emotion and the self-pity there. Lots of self-pity right there in the abuser's life. They will say that he can't change unless you stay with him or support him. So they say, oh, me going to leave. Oh, me going to manage if you leave. You can't leave. You have to stay with me. Oh, me going to get help. And they will say all the nice things for you not to go. And even when you go, they will call you and say they're changed and I can't live without you and I can't move on and this. Please to come back. And the moment you return, the cycle continues over and over. Try to get sympathy from you, your children, or family and friends. They will go all out to find somebody else who you're close to try to let them understand that you cannot talk to this person for me. Tell them some change now. Tell them this, tell them that. Because they're trying to get as many persons on their side to get you back into the home for more abuse. Because they're not really accepting. Not until there's acceptance on their part that they really have a problem and there is a great need for a change. Change is not going to come easily. Pressures you to make decisions about the relationship. So they will pressure you to make big decisions, spontaneous decisions. They just go to their bed and wake up and say, all right, we're going to do this. I think we should do this. Wanting power, wanting control, want to manipulate. And so there they go around making decisions without even consulting. Now there's a message that we want to share for the victim. If you can read with me. And it says, you are not to blame for being battered or mistreated. That is what we want to tell the victim. We also want to say to the victim, you are not the cause of your partner's abusive behavior. Some partners feel as if they are the cause. So they blame themselves. It's because me couldn't cook well, or it's because me couldn't do what he want me to do sexually, or it's because this, or it's because that, and it's because, and they find a lot of reason to say they are the reason. And that is how they blame themselves. Let's talk to the victim again. Number 3, you deserve to be treated with respect. And that is what you don't get in an abusive or domestic violent home. The respect has been broken down, and so there is no control, and there is a lot of manipulation. You deserve a safe and happy life. So why wear the mask? Happy and safe life is very, very important, and so you have to act quickly. And that is what you have to do. Into getting that done, speaking out is the onset or the start to get that done. Your children deserve a safe and happy life. Because guess what happened? You think it's just happening in the bedroom within the 4 walls. But the sounds are coming under the door, and the little cracks. And not only that, you put on a lot of makeup and you cover the mask. But guess what happened? In your eyes, the pain is still there. So you work, but the pain is right there in your eyes. And so you're wearing the mask, but you can't wear it for too long because after a while, you're going to reach breaking point. And that is when it leads to serious things such as the suicidal thoughts and all of that, and serious depression. You are not alone. There are people waiting to help. The victim needs to hear that. Let's read that one. You are not alone. There are people waiting to help. They need to get some hope. The victim have to get hope. They have to feel as if they are persons who have been through this and they survive. And so I am going to get help and I'm going to make it forward. I'm going to get out. I'm going to rise. Even though you want your partner to get help, but you first have to pull yourself out first in order for you to get help. And so there are several support systems that are available, especially for the women. You have the Women Inc., but that doesn't mean that the man cannot get any help also. The only thing with Women Inc. is that, based on my understanding, the only office that they have now is in Kingston, but they can make accommodations for you to get other help in other parishes. And there is also provision for sleepover or to take you out of a situation for overnight and receiving on-site counseling or ongoing counseling. You have the Victim Services Division that deals with the victim that is going through, and you have also Family Life Ministries that will take in the family for counseling. And you have other persons in church, in the communities who are involved in counseling. Those persons can help at the onset until things can get out of hand and you know that they need greater and bigger support. The police is also there for you to report because there's a Domestic Violence Act. And a lot of times, nobody wanted to report because they feel as if once they report, it's going to be, but it's your life. And you can't wait until it is taken away from you when your family members and your loved ones are going to say, me didn't know, but me never know, say it's so serious and it don't reach that stage. You can report. There's an act of restraining order for your safety and your family's safety. It's important that you do that. Because when you don't do that, you're setting up yourself for being a target or to being attacked by the abuser. All right? There's also friends and neighbors and relatives that you can talk with. And don't forget the church members and the church leaders. Sometimes it is sad because in the very church, you have persons who are suffering from this. And sometimes it's church leaders too. And so when this happens, it's sort of hard because they're at the place where they feel as if, how can I get help? Oh, what if my member know? Or what if somebody who looks up to me know? It doesn't really matter. Don't look on that. Look on how you can get help to help yourself. Because if you keep looking on others and what other persons are saying and what they think of you, you will not come out of the situation. And sometimes persons keep doing that, and what it does, it causes even more pressure. They stay in it, and the abuse keep weighing them down, eating them out. And before you know it, they have lost it. You only hear that there's a note that was left, but the person is no longer around. And then everybody put their hand on their head and bawl and scream, but that is when it is too. It is too. So what can we do now? We can reach out to persons. There are sometimes the signs are there and you're not really sure if it is domestic dispute or domestic violence. But the person is sad, not talking, wants to be alone most of the time. Go over, talk with the person, start to build a relationship. Because sometimes it starts by just observing the physical features. And I remember sometimes the abuse is not physical. So you have to build a relationship with the person, get to know the person so much that you're able to detect that it is not really physical, but emotional. And the emotional one is so severe that the person always wants to be by themselves. Because being bashed, being hurt, the negative words keep coming at them, that is also a crusher. And so domestic disputes and violence, it's hard, it's touchy, it's risky business because somebody might say, me might go talk about somebody's problem and them come turn around at me, but you might not talk and that life might take and you are sitting there with the guilt. So if each one can help one, and if you are my brother and we are to be our brother's keeper, we have to give an open eye. A lot of times children are suffering as a result of abuse. And guess what happened? They will come over and tell you, and you do nothing about it. The child is there, suffering, needs help. And a lot of the behavioral problems that we're having in our society today, it's as a result of the domestic dispute that takes place in the home. And the boys play out what they see at. They play out what they see at home. So they treat the girls with no regard. And the girls do the same thing. They practice what they see at home. And they treat the boys with no respect. So anything comes to their mouth, they say it. And it grows and it grows and it grows. And it turns all of us into a little monster. So we have to play our part. We have to do what we do to stem the tide and to get rid of this monster. And it starts with... Everybody, it starts with? Yes, it starts with me. So today, just put the searchlight on yourself and just see if you are being abused, what are you going to do about it? Yes, you have been praying and you have been talking to the Lord, and the Lord has been talking to you to tell you to go and talk to somebody, but you're not getting up because you're fearful that if you go and talk to somebody, somebody else will know. But the only way you can get help is if you speak out and somebody knows. Thank you for listening. I'm here to take your questions. Any question, any concern? Okay. All right. Economic abuse is the use of power of money. So that person is the main breadwinner and that person has a little extra in the relationship. So they will use it to say, you can't do this, you are, or sort of watch what you purchase, have this power over. And even if you need a napkin or if you need something very essential, it's like you have to get approval from them. You understand? So the economic abuse is using the finance and what they have to deal with the situation and to use it as a power struggle or control over you. Or even material things. So you're not going to bring you in the car, or it's my house, you don't have anything. Remember, you can't go back to your family. So they use the material things that they have to, as a magic wand over your head. And because you really don't have much, you keep saying, if I do this, I'm going to lose all of this. I interviewed one mother, and she said the reason why she stayed into the situation is because she didn't want her children to grow without a father. But the children were right in the home with the father, experiencing the abuse. So the father was there, but the father wasn't there. Because what the children were seeing were abuse. And it was playing out all in the home, and lots of problems with those children because the mother sits there not wanting to leave to allow the children to be out of the home, but the abuse do affect them. Any other concern, any other question? There's a victim services division in Maypen. It's right at the Maypen courthouse. That's the upstairs building that has a lot of charts on it. They work with victims that experiences trauma of different kinds. So that you can walk in as well as you can make an appointment, or the police can also refer, based on the case that goes to them, they refer the victim over, and they will also provide some help. You could also call 119 if you don't really want to visit the police station. Based on our system, sometimes persons don't want to walk in, and sometimes the victim is so fearful that they don't even want to be seen going to certain places, lest the abuser might hear, because they want to track you down, and that will, so you can make a call, use somebody else's phone, make a call to protect yourself, develop a plan, and work with somebody. Any other concerns? No, if that's for now, thank you for having me, and have yourself a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.
Powerful presentation, wouldn't you agree? Domestic violence, murder, and suicide, a pressing issue in our society today. Mrs. Lewin, it is with sincerity and appreciation that I say a big thank you on behalf of the Maypen Seventh-day Adventist family for being here with us today to share with us some points that we can apply to our lives. Even if the information doesn't apply to us directly, we are more aware now of how we can use it to help other persons, because it is a reality, a very sad one. Yes. And with awareness, we can take additional steps to protect ourselves and our loved ones. So thanks again for coming. We appreciate you, and keep up the great work.
Thank you. And just remember that once somebody is hurting, they're likely to hurt somebody else. So hurt people will hurt people. Thank you.